guys, welcome back to my channel. Simone here, and today I'm going to be doing the long-awaited video talking about Project Thriller. So I've decided in the year 2019 I want to read many more thrillers than I have in the past few years, because I feel like sometimes I have to read BookTube's popular books and I prefer reading thrillers. So I've decided I'm going to pick 12 thrillers off my shelves that I really want to read in this year. And yeah, I'm gonna work my way through them basically and read one a month. So let's get started with the 12 that I've picked. So the first book, I can give you a little spoiler, I've already read it. I read it in January, which was great. And that is The Surgeon by Tess, which is the first book in the Rizzolian Isles series. Again, I'm not going to give you any of my kind of thoughts on it yet because that will come up in my January wrap-up at the end of the month. This follows a woman named Jane Rizzoli, who is a homicide detective, and her partner Thomas Moore, who are investigating the brutal murders of women who basically are tied to their beds. Their wombs are cut out of them while they're still alive, and then their throats are slit. And they this happened a few years ago in a different part of America, but then it's kind of coming back, and now the woman that survived the original attack is now being targeted, and she's linked to this in some way. I loved this. I'm just going to say that. Again, I'll give you my thoughts then, but I was very excited, and I'm really glad that I started the year off well, and I've started off by reading one of the books I said I was going to read, so that's got to be a good thing. The next one I want to read is Second Life by S.J. Watson. I read Before I Go to Sleep by S.J. Watson. I think it was in 2016, and I really enjoyed it. Gave it a 5-star, so I really would like to read this. I've had this on my shelf for a really long time as well. So this just says, she loves her husband, she's obsessed by a stranger. She's a devoted mother, she's prepared to lose everything. She knows what she's doing, she's out of control. She's innocent, she's guilty of sin. She's living 2 lives, she might lose both. I mean, I don't really know anything else, and I don't really want to. This sounds really good. Like I said, I really enjoy S.J. Watson's writing, so I feel like this is going to be a really good one, and I'm quite excited to get to it, I must say. I feel like it's really difficult to make this video because I don't really know a lot about the thrillers, and I don't really just want to read the back of all of them. So I'm going to try and kind of give you a general synopsis, but I don't know how successful that will be. The next one I want to read is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, which I've heard very mixed things about. Some people love this, and I feel like some people really hate it. I believe it follows a man named Jason Dessen, who hears the words, "Are you happy in your life?" And that's the last thing he hears before he is knocked unconscious. When he wakes up, he's surrounded by a load of men in hazmat suits, and he's strapped down to a gurney, and a man says to him, "Welcome back." And he realises that in the world he's woken up to, his life is not what he remembers it. His wife is not his wife, his son is not his son, and well, his son was never even born, and he is not the college professor that he was before. And it happened, and then it goes on from there. Again, no idea what this is about. Really looking forward to reading it. I've heard, like I said, very mixed things. Some people love it, some people hate it, but I really want to make up my own mind because I do love a thriller. The next one is one that I have heard a lot about on BookTube, and I never knew whether to pick it up, but I kept seeing it in my local charity shop, and I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to do it. And that is Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris. I believe B.A. Paris has a new book out relatively recently anyway, so I feel like this is going to be one to see if I like her or not, or him. I don't know if it's a man or a woman actually that wrote it. Does it tell me? Inside, hang on, it is a woman, if I like her writing is what I should say. This is about a couple named Jack and Grace who from the outside seem like the perfect couple, but it says, but it's difficult because you realise they are never apart. And there was also, I think there's barred windows on one of the bedroom windows, and Grace never answers the phone and can't ever go out for lunch without her husband, and yeah. So again, could be interesting. It just says on the front, the perfect marriage or the perfect lie. I'm excited, and I've heard really good things about it. The next one I've picked is a completely different one to those previous ones, and it is Full Dark No Stars by Stephen King, which I believe is a short story collection. I think it's got 3 stories in. It has 4 stories in. It has 1922, Big Driver, Fair Extension, and A Good Marriage. And again, I think 1922 is it like a show or a movie on Netflix at the moment, so I feel like if I read that I could probably watch the show as well, but again, I don't actually know anything about it. I'd honestly never heard about this before, but again, I found it in my local charity shop and picked it up, because I basically want to read as many Stephen King books as I can, and yeah, this was one that came up, so I'm interested. I again have absolutely no idea, and I'd honestly never heard about it before. The next one I do have a copy of, but it's under the massive pile over there, and I honestly, it's only just balancing right now, so I have too many books. So I'm going to leave it there and I'll just put a picture on the screen. But that is The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. I've heard lots of things about Ruth Ware in general. I think she had another one come out about, is it called like The Death of Mrs. Westaway? I read The Lying Game by Ruth Ware, maybe again in 2016, and I really enjoyed it. So I feel like I really want to read something else of hers, and I didn't read anything last year. I think it was 2017 actually, not 2016. But yeah, basically, I've heard The Woman in Cabin 10, I believe, has it got something to do with like a cruise ship and somebody goes missing, or they think someone's gone overboard, and then they realise that nobody is missing from the ship itself? Or is that a different thriller that I've heard about that might be? I have no idea. I really want to read a Ruth Ware book anyway, so honestly, whatever it's about, I'm sure I'll get to it. But again, that's another one for this year. Next up is a book I have on my Kindle, and that is With Malice by Eileen. Again, not one I know lots about, but again, one I've been quite excited to read for quite some time. I haven't heard people talking about it very recently, but I feel like it was one that was really raved about when I first started BookTube. And I believe this is about a girl who wakes up and she's in some kind of accident, I think, and she wakes up from a coma, I want to say, and she doesn't really remember anything, and her best friend has been killed, and she essentially is being blamed for it, I believe, and then it's kind of about her trying to figure out what actually happened and kind of what went on. I honestly, it sounds good to me. I love kind of that, I do, sounds really awful, but I kind of love the amnesia trope, although I'm not a big fan of unreliable narrators, so I don't know if this is from her perspective or not. I imagine it probably is, but I feel like it's interesting, and I'm looking forward to giving it a go. Next up, I have noticed, by the way, I really love a domestic thriller. I think most of these, that's what these are. But the next one is Dear Amy by Helen Callaghan, which I will read this one because I actually don't know anything about it. It says, a local schoolgirl has been missing for weeks when Margot Lewis, agony aunt of the Dear Amy advice column, receives a letter. Dear Amy, I've been kidnapped by a strange man. I don't know where I am. Please help me. Bethan Avery. This must be a hoax because Bethan Avery is another young girl who went missing 20 years ago. As more letters arrive, Margot becomes consumed by finding the sender and, unlike the police, convinced that the girls' disappearances are connected. Solving this puzzle could save someone's life, but could it also cost Margot her own? This sounds amazing. It's meant to be a psychological thriller, and I kind of really like this sort of thing, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading this now. Actually, now I've read the back of it, I'm even more excited. So looking forward to this one. The next one I have is one I've also heard lots talked about, and that is The Couple Next Door by Shari Lapena. This, it says, the most talked about thriller of the year, and it could be right because I've heard lots about it. This kind of has a little bit of Madeleine McCann vibes to me, which actually I feel like it's going to be really hard to read. This follows a woman whose neighbour invites her to dinner with her husband, but says that she doesn't want the baby to come, the 6-month-old, because she just doesn't want her to crying at the dinner table. And so her husband's like, it's alright, we only live next door, you'll have the baby monitor, we'll keep going back to check on her, she'll be okay. And then the last time she checked, her daughter was asleep in bed, and then she comes home and finds that the baby's gone. And I think it's about that. Again, the idea of babies disappearing and stuff freaks me out a little bit, so I'm gonna be a bit nervous to read this, I think. However, this was blurbed by Tess Gerritsen, who said, a twisty, utterly riveting tale. And if Tess Gerritsen thinks it's riveting and twisty and, you know, great, then I definitely want to read it. So yeah, I'm interested to read this. Kind of scared though. By the way, I should say this is not all of the thrillers that I plan on reading the year. Obviously this is just the ones that I specifically want to get to. If you check out my 12 books to read in 2019, there are also quite a lot of thrillers on that list as well, and also my 5-star predictions for the year, which I am reading one book from each of those 3 lists, including this one, in this year basically. So there are lots of thrillers happening, I promise you. The next one is interesting because my mum usually reads either fantasy books or she reads like foster stories. She wanted to go a little bit out of her comfort zone and read something a bit different, so she picked this book up and then she loved it, so she gave it to me to read because she knows I do love a thriller, and that is The Stranger in My Home by Adele Parks, which Again, I'm going to have to read, I'm really sorry. It says, what would you do if your child wasn't yours? Alison is lucky and she knows it. She has the life she always craved, including a happy home with Jeff and their brilliant, vivacious teenage daughter, Catherine, the absolute centre of Alison's world. Then a knock at the door ends life as they know it. 15 years ago, someone else took Alison's baby from the hospital, and now Alison is facing the unthinkable. The daughter she brought home doesn't belong to her. When you have everything you dreamed of, there is everything to lose. That sounds horrifying and also kind of interesting. Like, I honestly don't know what I would do if that was the case. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading this one. I think it's going to be really heart-wrenching but also kind of like twisty, I feel like, and I'm looking forward to it a lot. The penultimate one I want to read, again, is literally at the very bottom one of the shelf over there, so again I'll put a picture up on the screen, and that is A Meditation on Murder by Robert Thorogood, which is actually based, or the TV show Death in Paradise is based on the book series of this, and I love the TV show Death in Paradise. It's one of my favourites. And yeah, so this basically is about an English detective who gets sent on like assignment, I guess, to the island of Samari, I think it is, in the Caribbean, and so he has to deal with the fact that he has a completely different skill set than they have there, and he is very hot all the time, and yeah, I love the TV show, so I'm really hoping that the book is just as good as well. And the final book on this list is Local Girl Missing by Claire Douglas. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that Nicole from A Beautiful Chaos of Books loves this book. I'm not 100% sure. I vaguely remember her talking about it, and I'm sure she loved it. But it basically is about 20 years ago, a girl disappeared, and her best friend 20 years later is drawn back to the town where it all happened because a body has been found. I don't remember anything. I don't know anything else about it. It just says every town has its secrets. It does remind me a little bit of the synopsis for The Lion Game by Ruth, Ware, which again, as I said, I really loved and was really interesting to me. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this compares and also kind of how the story goes, because I feel like it could go in any direction. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. So there you have it, guys. That is my Project Thriller TBR for this year. So they are the 12 thrillers specifically that I want to read, but like I said, there will be many more. I'm really looking forward to reading thrillers a lot this year because they generally are my favourite kinds of books. So let me know what thrillers you would like to read this year, or if you've read any of these ones and which ones you think I should get to first. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you on Monday for my next video. Bye guys!